Parasite the Maxim episode 8, Freezing Point. I think the biggest thing about this episode, like the biggest thing I took away from this episode is that it's actually really sad to see a character that's already dead. Like this, like Shinichi is not Shinichi anymore. Like that, I knew that was gonna happen. Like that was really obvious from even from the opening, which he's officially taken on that stance now. He has the different hairstyle and stuff. Honestly, he doesn't even sound like the same person. Like I'm sure it's the same actor, but I think they had him do his voice higher pitch. It's almost like it's not as drastic, but it's almost like someone like mostly for a boy going through puberty where his voice was higher pitched before, but now it's very monotone, so it's not like sort of the same reactions. There were like a couple of moments where he sounded like he did in the other episodes, but really he kind of sounded like a completely different person in this, and obviously he acted insanely different, and that's why I mentioned it's kind of sad to see a character that technically it's still Shinichi, and he realizes at certain points things are different, but he's not him. Like he is, that Shinichi is dead and gone, and it was like, man, this is kind of somber to see that. It's cool, but in this one, like it was cool more in the last one because he was still himself, but he had all these new powers and stuff, and now it's like he has all these abilities and things, but now it's kind of sad because he doesn't have these powers and he still has his personality tied to them. It's he's just different. He's more like me, and he's becoming obviously what he's hated the entire series. So it was really sad seeing that. It was still it was definitely a great episode though, but it was like, man, it was a weird thought process. Like he's basically dead inside. Like he's just nothing at this point, and he's just going through the motions. Like his only real emotional moment was when he had the angriest look in the universe on his face, which is a really funny scene. Because when it was close up, it was just really intense, and then they showed his whole face, and it was just like an awkward moment. He's just like, and it's like, oh, about yesterday, and I was like, that was really funny, but it of course wasn't meant to be. Although I guess it kind of was meant to be once he turned and looked at her, and it's like a weird sort of awkward moment. She's like, no, it's fine, and she takes off. But I like this episode. We got a lot of interesting moments. We get a new parasite coming in who basically is like, oh, we have our pregnant teacher who we see in this episode. She's actually showing in this one. So it's like, all right, look, I need you to basically watch Shinichi. He's a weird observational opportunity for us to learn about the future, possible future of our species. So it was pretty interesting. She's basically like, look, I was kind of watching him at first. Obviously, I got my baby. You go check him out. Don't cause any issues or anything like that. And just see what's happening with him. And now, of course, she sensed that there was something different way back, early on. And now he's totally different than what he used to be. So I wonder what would happen if the teacher, she came back and really sensed what was going on with him right now. But we have this new guy who, of course, Shinichi doesn't like, and Migi is kind of, and this was the weird thing, Migi in this episode seemingly more human than Shinichi in this one, and I think it's just the actors and how they do their voices, and Migi has always kind of been, it's hard to describe, but it's a slightly more outgoing voice in general, so even though it's the tone is kind of monotone, like the way she's speaking is very just like factual. It's how it's read, like the voice wise, it sounds a bit more alive. And then with Shinichi in this episode, everything is just deadpan. It's like, it's weird that Migi is the one who sounds like kind of upbeat a little bit compared to everything that's going on with Shinichi. But we of course have them kind of walking away, and Migi's like, look, we can't reveal this secret about me going to sleep for 4 hours, because if this guy is really a threat, then that's something, to actually worry about. And, it made perfect sense. And of course, even after that happens, there's still the little tease where it's like weird, they have their little confrontation, which was really cool for Shinichi. He was just like, if anything happens to anyone that I care about, I will end you. And I was like, man, that was a really intense moment for him. And it seemed like he was ready to start a fight even if he didn't have a chance to win. And it kind of made me wonder, what if he did get into a fight, which I think they might do in a future episode. What if he gets into a fight while Migi's asleep? And I don't know if this is going to happen. Considering what's happening with him mentally, I feel like at some point he really will have full control, and that might not exactly be good, because it'll basically just mean that he is fully a parasite now. He'll still be himself, and he'll still have all those memories and everything, just like he does, but he won't realize how inhuman he's really become, and he'll even have complete control with Migi. But, you know, checks and balances, I guess it'll be cool for him to have that control, and even if Migi's asleep, he has the ability to change his appendages, but also he'll be the Shinichi that he is. Even worse, maybe, so who knows. But I feel like they might be leading up to that, and that probably wouldn't happen like until closer to the very end of the series. I don't know if this show has a second season. I don't think it does. I think they do the whole story in just like one season. But they kind of tease it a little bit, so we might get to see that in a couple more episodes. Probably like not a couple more, but like way down, like 10, 12 more episodes. We might get to see that. But they have the confrontation, and the guy senses that Migi's signal was incredibly weak. So that was actually pretty interesting, because they never really talk about that, like with them going to sleep. And I guess it only happens with Migi and I guess the other guy's Parasite, who controls his technically his chin, I guess. So that's something that never really explained. It's just like, oh well, Migi goes to sleep, and I guess in this one they actually talk about like, oh, their signal gets weakened and stuff like that. And I initially just thought when Migi was like, oh, I'm about to fall asleep, I just figured, oh well, if Migi doesn't respond, he'll know something's wrong. But it's actually that even without that, their signal is much weaker. So I thought that was pretty interesting. And of course, we have the girl who can sense Shinichi, and she can sense parasites for whatever reason. Don't know what that is, but she can sense parasites, so that kind of gets her in a little bit of trouble with the new guy. I believe his name is Hideo. So it gets her in trouble with him, and then of course that leads to our little confrontation. And then she pulls kind of a bitch move a little bit, because she knew Murano was right there, and she knows exactly what's going on. Like she had the scene earlier where she's like, oh, he's coming up the stairs right now. And then she sees Murano, and it's like, oh, well, like, who the F is that? And then she's like, oh, she's like all over him a little bit, and she knows, what that would do. And it, of course, came at the worst time because of everything that happened with the puppy. So it's like, crap, he felt like he screwed up again, and so, of course, she did that kind of as a manipulative thing to get him alone. So that kind of made me annoyed with her, just like a tiny bit. But it was interesting. Like, I knew that she was obviously sensing the parasites, and they finally have her confrontation where she senses someone else, and I thought it was interesting. Like, how has she never sensed anyone else? Like, even when they were at the school, when the teacher was there, I guess in that sense she could have just thought, oh, it's Shinichi, and she probably didn't really recognize the fact that there were maybe two senses. Like there were two separate entities. So it was just like, oh, there's this sense. It must be Shinichi in some vicinity around her. She could just feel the the aura of the parasites, and she just maybe assumed. But it's like, how could she not, like, and considering what they specifically in this episode, they kind of did it in the last one when he finally came back. But in this one, it was specific. Like, she knew he was coming up from those stairs, and she was sitting basically, that had to have been like almost 100 feet away, based on, well, just how it looked in the perspective. That was probably like 100 feet away from her, and he was even, down the stairs, so it was like 100 and some extra feet. And it's like, I know he's gonna come up those stairs any minute. And it's like, if she can sense him from that far away, how has she never realized, that there are other parasites around? And it makes me wonder if she doesn't sense, I don't want to say the intellectual parasites, because there are those couple where they don't just go around like whipping people, in the little tiny pieces. They actually think consciously, like, oh, I'll form this face, or I'll do this or do that. So I'm wondering if those are the parasites that she sees, the ones that actually mature incredibly well compared to the ones that are just like very feral almost. Because otherwise, she should have sensed that there aren't like a ton all over the place, but there clearly been enough. So it kind of makes me wonder, like, how has she never sensed that before? But maybe that's the excuse that they're gonna go with, or the reason. Maybe not. I shouldn't say excuse, but maybe that's the reason they'll go with. It's the more intellectual versions of the parasites because they're much more mature to go beyond just, oh, I can control this body, and then all they do is go around. Like most parasites don't really bother learning to talk too often. Like even the ones that do talk, they don't seem to talk too well outside of the ones that they fought. But we had like Mr. A, I believe was his name. He didn't exactly speak too well. We had the parasite that killed Shinichi's mom. Even that one didn't seem to speak too well. Even after switching between three separate bodies, it wasn't exactly speaking the most fluent sentences. It was kind of like it made sense what it was saying, but it was still very much like, oh, where is the spouse or where is the father? And I guess I have to eliminate you now. And it was very simple sentences, and it wasn't fluent like how I'm speaking. So it was very different, even though it went through all those different bodies. It was still kind of just like very robotic speech compared to some of the other ones that we've seen. So maybe that'll be the reason why she senses some and not others. But that could get her into a lot of trouble in the future, and it probably will. Most likely, it'll come up again, and it won't be either Shinichi or someone who's not trying to kill anyone else. Well, I guess Hideo was killing people because he clearly lied. At the end, he changed his face, and then he kills the girl. And I don't know what was going on with his transformation in the beginning of the episode, but he was just like all fingers. That was really weird. So I'm not sure exactly what he did. They had the blade come up, so I'm assuming he may have split her face open or something like that. I don't know, but it seems like he only eats the top of them. And that seemed to be what they do in general, because they don't really show them eating other humans too much. It's kind of just like, there goes your head, and then that's pretty much all we get to see. We don't actually see them ingest, or even how that even happens, to be totally honest. They only show us kill other people, or how they kill other people. So I don't really know exactly what's going on with him, but it was like he tricked this girl, and he took something from her. I don't really know. So it was either her brain or something crazy, like he can survive off of her, just her brain, and that's it. Or that's just how it's been the whole time. And they're finally sort of showing it in this episode. But he clearly lied. I don't know why I know why he lied. It was just to keep Shinichi on his good side. But it makes me wonder, why don't they do that? They know, because Migi even says it. I think it was in the second or third episode. Like, turns out we can actually totally survive off of you guys, and it's actually pretty really easy. And instead, they just go around, boom, cannibalism. It's like they eat each other as parasites, and they eat other humans. So I don't know. It's really weird. Like, they could easily survive because they survive off of normal human body functions. And so they could survive off of food and things like that, but instead they just go around as like easier somehow, I guess, and whip a head off and absorb the nutrients, I guess. But I did like this episode. Very interesting to see this new sort of Shinichi. Like it's a new Shinichi because he was already new once he had the powers and everything, and now it's like he's the new version, and it's not as fun. It's not as cool. It's definitely more somber, and it is sad because I highly doubt that this is going to be reversed. I'm pretty sure it's just going to get worse to the point where he's basically full-on Parasite. And I don't know if this means anything, because there is the scene before where me is like, oh, there's so much of me flowing through your system now. But I highly doubt any of those parts will try to turn into parasites and go over into capillaries and try to take over your body. But it seems like they don't have to try at this point. It's flowing through him. It's in his brain. It's gotten, to his brain. It's almost like a fungus, or a parasite at this point. So maybe it will just flat out kill him, by the end. It'll take over him and he won't be himself anymore. And maybe Migi, I don't know. I mean, if it's Migi taking over him, then it would still be Migi, whether, it's split or something. But who knows? Who knows how it'll play out. I'm looking forward to it. A little sad to see him like this in this episode. It was just like, the last episode is kind of what I wanted for his character, where he had all the power, and then this one hits and it's like, man, he has all the power and stuff, but now he's not that same guy. I mean, he could have still had the different hairstyle and still just been like happy-go-lucky, but he's not that anymore. And it's like, man, that kind of sucks. I like that character because that's who he was, and now he's very, parasitic, I guess, personality-wise, of course. So, very somber, but I certainly enjoyed this, and I'm really looking forward to the next episode. But, of course, I want to know what you guys thought about this one, so please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts, your least favorite parts, and I can't believe I'm asking this again, but I do want to know what you guys think of the new Shinichi, because he is new, and it's him with all the power. We do have the really cool scene where the bully comes up to him again, and that was like our first real glimpse of the new version of him, where he's just like, oh, it's you again, and he's like, oh, this isn't gonna, he's like, this isn't gonna be like last time. Really cool, and he's just dodging and stuff and everything. He doesn't even throw a single punch. He just dodges, and eventually he just grabs the guy's foot once he's up against the wall, which I thought for sure they were gonna have it where the guy was gonna try to punch him again, and he would just dodge, and the guy would like break his knuckles or something like that, break his fingers a little bit. But instead, it's just like, boom, got your foot, and then he, just has his shoe and embarrasses the guy a little bit. But he's definitely different now. He's got the power. Now he's got a new personality as well. So, of course, want to know what you guys think about that, and just the episode in general, as well as the new character who I don't know how this is gonna play out, but Shinichi's friend, and I don't remember the other two girls' names, but the friend who's seemingly like his best friend and they just talk and stuff, she has a crush on the new guy, and that can only be a problem, I assume. So, want to know what you guys think about that as well. But please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.